Welcome to R&R Living Life. We begin this episode as we explore the Moira Shire, situated in the northeast part of Victoria, covering an area of 4,045 square kilometres. Today we were making our way to Katamatite, Numurkah and Strathmerton. Later on in this episode we will explore the Port of Echuca. The Moira Shire extends from the junction of the Goulburn River with the Murray River on the New South Wales-Victorian border in the west, along the Murray River north to the junction with the Ovens River, south down the Ovens River to the Tungamah-Peach-Elba Road, then zigzagging south and west along Boundary Road below Lake Rowan and St James, and west to the Goulburn River. The Shire includes the towns of Cobram, Nathalia, Numurkah and Yarrawonga, as well as 18 smaller towns and communities. The Shire boasts key agricultural, dairy, horticulture and viticultural industries, as well as a strong tourism sector and a growing manufacturing sector. The natural river systems of the Goulburn, Broken, Murray and Ovens catchments provide a foundation for the Shire's historical, cultural, economic and physical identity. Our first stop for the morning was at the Lions Memorial Park at Katamatite on Boozy Creek that runs through some of the best farming land in the area. We were intrigued by the story of Ronaldo the Bunyip, highlighted by the panels along the creek, and I was fascinated by the chainsaw art featuring the Bell's Lace monitor, two tawny frogmouth owls, a boobook or mopoke owl, and a small little parrot that could either have been a grass parrot or an eastern rosella, all native to the Katamatite area. I was amazed by the huge life-size steel eagle sculpture with a 3-metre wingspan made from farm materials and items from farms in the district. The sculpture has claws made from bale hooks and feathers from mower blades. I could have spent more time wandering along the creek, but it was bitterly cold, so quickly returned to the boat. From Boozy Creek we made our way to the GrainCorp Katamatite silo art, having only been recently completed in July 2023. The mural showcases the rich history and cultural significance of the Katamatite area, featuring a team of draft horses, a wedge-tail eagle and indigenous figures camped along the Boozy Creek, with a scar tree running down the centre, connecting the two silos. Katamatite is located in the Murray Valley irrigation area. The township buildings date back to 1877, with the post office opened in December of that year. A private tramway joined Katamatite to the Doki railway line in 1890 and was absorbed into the Victorian Railways network in 1896. Katamatite farmers mostly grew wheat and animal fodder, with bagged wheat transported from the railway station until a silo was built in 1943. In 1939, irrigation water from the Yarrawonga main channel was distributed in the district, providing dairy pastures in place of wheat paddocks. The township is surrounded by irrigation channels. We were also interested in the small hut and on-site weighbridge that are used to weigh vehicles carrying grain and other produce to determine the exact weight of the load for trading, processing and inventory. In the area was the Broken Boozy State Park, a unique linear park bordering the Broken, 9 Mile and Boozy Creeks. Being one of the few remaining remnants of high-quality grey box woodland on Victoria's northern plains, it exists in the landscape that has been largely cleared for agriculture. Box ironbark forests once covered most of the gold-bearing areas of northern Victoria. Following European settlement, the forests were cleared for mining, timber and agriculture. Only 17% of the original box ironbark vegetation is left. Much of this is on private land and other public lands. 16 new and expanded parks were established in 2002 to protect what remains of the box ironbark forests. From the silos we made our way along the Katamatite Nathalia Road to Numurkah, located on the Goulburn Valley Highway and Broken Creek, to check out their Grain Corp oilseed factory. The morning was still quite cool, and I can say the breeze was more than invigorating. The area is a rich rural irrigation district where dairying, fruit production, mixed farming and grazing utilise the rich soils of the area. Squatters moved into the area from New South Wales in the late 1830s after pastoral runs were made available for farm selection. The township of Numurkah was surveyed in 1875, with the post office opened in November 1878. The local railway station was opened on the Goulburn Valley Railway in 1881 from Shepparton, but has not seen any passenger service since 1993, when the train to Cobram was withdrawn. Numurkah became the headquarters of the Murray Valley Soldier Settlement Area, one of the largest soldier settlements in Australia after World War One. Under this scheme, 700 ex-servicemen were given land to develop for agriculture. In 1935, the Yarrawonga main channel started carrying irrigation water through the district. In 1946, larger holdings were broken up for dairying of 49 hectares and orchards of 16 hectares. A major flood hit the town in 2012. Then, in 2014, the area was devastated by serious bushfires. We then made our way back through Strathmerton that lies at the heart of the rich dairy industry. Benjamin Boyd, who in 1841 was one of the earliest landholders in the district, initially named his property Ulna Upna. He later changed it to Strathmerton from Merton, the name of his family home in Scotland, and Strath, a Gaelic word meaning valley. We had become familiar with Benjamin Boyd when we had stayed in Boyd Town and had visited Boyd Tower. The area began to be settled in the 1870s, with the local hotel built around 1877, establishing a centre for the settlement. A dairy factory was built in the town in 1950. About a third of the district's population are either dairy farmers or people working in the dairy industry, and the largest business in town is the Bega Cheese Factory, once the Kraft Cheese Factory. By the early 1990s, the dairy factory owned by Kraft was producing 90% of the country's Coon cheese and all of the company's Philadelphia cheese. Unfortunately, the Bega Group is in the process of closing the Strathmerton factory, with expected closure to be complete in mid-2026. As we made our way back to Cobram and Gidget, I wondered what the closure of the Bega Group would do to the community, especially as so many people in the area were in some way connected to it. Then again, closures have happened in so many other rural communities, often leaving them empty. But time will tell, I suppose. On the way back to Cobram, we passed cactus country. This unusual traction, though closed on the day we were passing through, covers 4 hectares and is the largest landscape cacti garden in Australia that has been operating for over 25 years, with literally thousands of cactus plants. That afternoon, Rick and I spent time catching up on jobs around the boat and Gidget. Since leaving Cancoban, Rick and I have been intent on following the winding journey of the Murray River as it winds its way through diverse landscapes along the New South Wales-Victorian border that stretches from the Snowy Valley to the Indian Ocean on the South Australian border. The region boasts striking and diverse terrain, from sandy river beaches and forested slopes to lush farmland and ancient desert dunes. Some of the industries we have seen in the region include agriculture, softwood production, viticulture, horticulture, manufacturing and construction. As it flows some 2,530 kilometres across southeastern Australia, not including the Darling that we had followed in 2023, it has impacted many communities, towns and shires and states along its length. The Moira Shire is a prime example. When early transport in the area was by foot, horseback and horse or bullock-drawn wagons from the early 1850s, riverboats provided a much-needed form of transport along the Murray River. Although some roads were established in the regions, the local shires were not established until the 1870s, and funds were rarely sufficient to develop and maintain roads and bridges. Regular floods of the major rivers and creeks resulted in badly maintained roads and river crossings. Serious droughts affected the colony from 1877 to 1881, which resulted in legislation to set up water trusts to establish and manage local waters, the beginning of the intrinsically linked Snowy Mountains scheme and the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, a partnership that shares water between all users and the environment sustainably. The rivers and creeks of shires are the lifeblood of the land, so water is a valuable commodity. With the help of the irrigation scheme, along with these rivers and creeks, have helped to support agriculture, not only on the alluvial floodplains, but in the case of the Moira Shire, the agricultural land that covers around 70% of the shire, of which about half is irrigated and half is dryland farming. To keep farms viable, they need water. The result was the construction of weirs, reservoirs and irrigation channels to improve the development of these regions into major agricultural, horticultural and dairying centres. The soldiers' settlement period following World War II also had a major impact on the population and production growth of these areas. However, the long-term effect would not have been achieved to the same extent without the network of irrigation channels. When I first saw them last year, it was hard for me to get my head around just how huge the scheme was, especially as we drove through the Western Riverina, Wentworth and the Goulburn Murray irrigation districts, and I questioned the benefits of taking water from the Murray and diverting it inland over such a huge amount of country, and in these areas that really looked like they didn't need extra water, and that coming from someone who grew up on a dairy farm with very little water and relied on rainwater to fill dams and tanks. But high-value crops need to be produced as the population has grown, and that needs water. The following day we moved on. I was a little sad to be leaving such a beautiful and well set out park, with plenty of space and the swamp hens to keep me entertained while I was sitting in the sun. From Cobram we made our way to Echuca, back through Strathmerton, following the Murray Valley Highway, through the small communities of Natalia, Katamatite and Woona, past the Falcon Hotel Motel, to Echuca. It took us a while to find a park, but eventually found one, though narrow, down along the river in Watson Street. For such a tourist-driven town, I was surprised that there were very few long parks for the boat and gidget. From there we could walk up to the Port of Echuca. Echuca is set within an irrigated pastoral and agricultural district on the Murray River, just across the river from the New South Wales border town of Moama. The historical river port of Echuca was once Australia's busiest inland port during the days of steamboat transport in the mid-1800s. Today, Echuca's main commercial centre is situated along Hare Street and spills over into Pakenham Street and the other side streets, consisting of a mix of contemporary shop fronts and historical buildings, such as the former post office with its distinctive clock tower built in 1870, several banks and churches. Echuca was surveyed in 1854 and quickly became one of Australia's busiest inland ports, with paddle steamers ferrying supplies throughout Australia's interior via the river network. With improved road and rail transport eventually taking over, with cargo transport on the river through the Echuca port ceasing in the very early 1900s. In its heyday of paddle steamers and river trade, It has left a historic legacy to Echuca, on which we were only too happy to check out on our Murray River adventure. Today we saw only a small section of the impressive original red gum wharf that was constructed in stages from 1865 as a three-level structure to allow for the rise and fall of the river, ultimately reaching a length of 1,200 metres. As we walked down to the dock, the magnitude of the depth was impressive. It was huge. Not only could we walk down to the lower dock, but we could also stand on the top deck that serves as a great viewing platform to view the Murray River and the surrounding bushland. As well as the wharf, we checked out the rest of the riverport's recreation of yesteryear, including the museum, historic buildings and equipment displays. We were just happy to watch rather than take a cruise on the authentic paddle steamer as it docked, and then took another load of tourists up and down the river. We looked over the paddle steamer Adelaide, a working cargo boat, the oldest wooden-hulled paddle steamer still operating anywhere in the world. Built in Echuca in 1866, it was used to transport wool to Echuca and as a part-time passenger boat. Navigation on the Murray River in 1853 allowed for the establishment of a trade base on the 19th century equivalent of the superhighway, reshaping the pastoral industry previously reliant on slow bullock wagons. Not only did the paddle steamer transport wool and other commodities to market, they also acted as passenger transport and carried supplies to towns and sheep stations along the river. At times of high water, they travelled as far north as Walgett near the Queensland border to Galway in South Australia, with a round trip to Berg, 2,100 kilometres, taking 5 weeks depending on river levels. In drought years, boats could be stuck for up to 9 months or more. Inside the museum was a fascinating history of the Port of Echuca and the paddle steamers that plied the waters of the Murray. We will leave you here for this episode here at the Port of Echuca. Join us next time as we make our way to Lake Boga, check out Swan Hill for the second time, and continue making our way along the Murray. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Give us a thumbs up if you have. Stay safe and enjoy life. Cheers for now. Rick and Rosemary. R&R, living life.